If you follow the topics or financial topics, if you follow financial topics on social media, you have likely heard or seen folks talking about a magical account that is, better than your 401k. It's a super top secret strategy that's used by wealthy people, and us evil, mean financial planners just don't want you to know about it. The truth is that this strategy is nothing new. It's an indexed universal life insurance policy. And in this video, we're going to talk about it. So buckle up. Let's get started. The truth is, I don't typically like to get on social media and throw rocks at other people. I don't like to really talk about other people's business models because I know for a fact that there are wonderful people working in all different parts of financial services. We have great folks that work in insurance. We have great folks that work in financial planning. We have great folks that work in investments. And, generally speaking, I think the vast majority of people in financial services want to help consumers. They want to help people like you. However, one of the things that has been happening lately is we are starting to see some pretty bold claims being made by folks on the insurance side, insurance agents, talking specifically about CFPs. And to be honest, I'm not even sure that these folks even know what a CFP is. So in this video, we're going to talk about all of these different claims that are being made, and I'm going to unpack them one by one to the best of my ability. And at the same time, I open this floor up for discussion because I like transparency, and I think the more that we can bring sunlight to certain areas, everybody can learn, we can all grow together. So first of all, I want to address something that continues to happen, and I'm going to address it because I know a sales script when I see it. And when I continue to see the same people, various people saying the same types of things over and over and over again, I know they're working from some type of blueprint and they're making it their own. So I want to first talk about the fact that we continue to hear people, I especially continue to hear people on social media referencing CFPs. So a CFP is a designation. It stands for Certified Financial Planner. And I think a lot of times it's being used synonymously with, quote, financial advisor. You can be a financial advisor and not be a CFP. A CFP is a designation that is earned. And the bar for earning a CFP is fairly steep. Not only do you have to go through a pretty rigorous coursework where you are taking exams and passing exams on various aspects of someone's financial life, you actually have to pass a comprehensive board exam that involves a comprehensive knowledge of all these other areas that you've studied and apply them through cases. You also have to have industry experience. You also have to submit yourself to a code of ethics and be bound to a fiduciary duty for clients. For an insurance agent, the bar is not high at all. In fact, all you need to do to be able to sell insurance is essentially pass an insurance licensing exam, pay some fees to have an insurance license. The bar is extremely low for being an insurance agent. Now, that doesn't mean that insurance agents are bad. In fact, insurance, in my opinion, is a very important piece of the overall financial puzzle. And I will tell you, full disclosure, for me personally, I have an insurance license. There is an insurance side to my business. So when I speak about things that are insurance related, I'm not talking to you as someone who thinks insurance is evil, thinks that insurance is bad, and has no skin in the game. We like insurance. We think insurance can be a great tool when used appropriately in the context of a financial plan. I am not a huge fan of just insurance sales and selling insurance for sales sake, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about this video. I saw this video the other day, and I am not going to I'm not the one that's going to stitch somebody else's video on my channel. At least I don't expect to ever be doing that, because I don't like putting people on blast, and I don't have time all day to get in these video stitching wars where there's video responses back and forth. I actually run a business, so you won't see me making response videos from my car or from my living room, or wherever else I might be doing on that day. But I saw this video making the round the other day, and it basically said that CFPs were competition, and that we didn't care about our clients. And I'm going to read directly from our code of ethics here. So forgive my line of sight with my eyes, but the code of ethics for a CFP professional is that we act with honesty, integrity, competence, and diligence. The very next bullet point says that we exercise due care. We care about our clients. We are bound to care about their priorities and their values when we accept an engagement with them. So this idea that CFPs don't care and that we're just upset because we're in competition, that is nonsense. It is blatant nonsense. Now, the other thing that I will point out is that a lot of people that are talking about these insurance policies, again, they continue to reference compensation models. And I'm going to talk about compensation in a little bit, but first I want to again emphasize, I don't think you folks that are out there saying CFPs, I don't believe you know what CFP means. You keep talking about it like it's just we're all up in this wirehouse brokerage warehouse somewhere, that we are not out there amongst the people and working with clients and doing our due diligence with care and expertise. So first of all, that's just pure silliness in my view, pure silliness. Next up, let's talk about business models and how you can engage with financial professionals. So first of all, there are many different types of business models for engaging with a financial planner. And again, I'm going to specifically talk about certified financial planners, since that is who keeps being referenced in these videos. When you work with a certified financial planner, there are multiple business models. You can work with someone who is a fee-only or advice-only financial planner, meaning you could take to them your entire financial life, and the only way that they are going to be compensated is to have an engagement with you where they provide you financial advice. They tell you what their fee is. They may bill you hourly. They may have an engagement, a flat fee for engagement. And they aren't going to sell you any products. They aren't going to manage any money. They aren't going to do anything but give you a financial planning process and advice. Okay? Those folks have no skin in the game with where you invest your money or what insurance you buy or don't buy, because that is not their business. You have other financial professionals who they do have insurance licenses. They do have wealth management services, but they may also simply have an opportunity for you to engage with them for advice. In fact, we are supposed to be planners first, provide a planning process, and then let the plan itself dictate what our recommendations and what our advice looks like to clients. In that case, there may be a legitimate insurance recommendation, and then we talk through the different types of insurance and how that works, and then you as a client get to make an educated and informed decision. When you go to an insurance agency, whatever types of insurance that they are licensed to buy and whatever companies that they are contracted with, those are your choices. There may or may not be a planning process whatsoever. It may be, hey, I really like this idea, or I need this policy. What do you have? I'm not a huge fan of transactional stuff like that, but I know it exists, and it's part of the overall financial services ecosystem. So you as a client need to determine, like, who do you think is the best person to do business with? Somebody who is actually duty bound to put your interest ahead of their own and actually educate you and inform you on the different types of tools that are available to you and allow you to decide, or to the person that's only got one tool or two tools that they think they can sell you and make a commission. Okay? So that is essentially the different types of engagement. So you can have a fee-only advisor where you're paying for advice only. You can have somebody who is fee-based where they offer wealth management services, but they don't do insurance. Then you can have somebody who does fee and commission where they can have a fee-only engagement. They can provide wealth management services. They also may have an insurance arm. There are many different business structures that certified financial planners can work underneath. So this blanket usage of CFPs is coming from people who honestly I think are just ignorant. And I'm not using that as a derogatory term. I'm using it as that I don't think that they genuinely know the different types of business models that exist in the marketplace. Now let's talk about what you're actually doing when we talk about IULs, okay? An IUL is a contract. It is a contract with an insurance company. It's life insurance, and it is a very specific type of life insurance. There are many, many different kinds of life insurance out there, and it can be designed in different ways. So one of the biggest things that I keep hearing when I watch these videos is that, CFPs, we don't understand it, or, the policy just isn't designed the right way. And again, this is pure nonsense, right? Most of us understand what it is, but what we don't do is make blanket recommendations where we think it applies to everybody. We definitely don't get out here and tell people that, you shouldn't look at investing in your 401k because make up the reason why your 401k is bad. We don't tell people, oh, this is, don't use a Roth IRA, use this instead, because in most cases, that is just crazy advice. But if you can't be paid, if you can't be compensated by people if they put money in a Roth IRA because you're not securities licensed, or if you can't actually give advice on investments because you're not licensed to talk about securities, then of course, why would you want to propose anything that would have somebody put money in something that you couldn't be paid on or compensated on? Let's just keep it real and talk about what we're talking about. You can't be paid on certain things, so those things equal bad, right? If you can only be licensed to talk about insurance, you should only talk about insurance. And for the things that you don't understand, like tax strategy, Roth IRA, wealth management, 401k, maybe we just stop talking about those things. Maybe we stop, okay? I'm going to get myself worked up. Sorry. All right. So one other thing that keeps coming up is, hey, do this. Wealthy people do this, right? And this is where I tend to have an opinion that does differ somewhat from a lot of financial planners. I don't think insurance is a terrible tool, and I think in some instances it can make sense. But let's unpack how it actually works in the real world. I see people saying, oh, this is what the wealthy do. Yes, a lot of banks, a lot of companies have cash value life insurance, right? They have cash value life insurance, but a lot of them own it for very specific reasons. There are things called non-qualified deferred comp plans. These are like golden handcuffs for your executives or key executives in a corporation. A lot of these folks, they already maximize their 401ks. They get profit sharing, and they still want to find ways to defer more compensation, defer their tax. Businesses have ways of doing that. Life insurance is one of the tools that can be used in that. So yes, that can happen, but it's a very specific use. The other thing, wealthy families can use life insurance, cash value life insurance, through advanced estate planning techniques and trust work. There are multiple uses for that. This is not what we're talking about when we're talking about the average person putting in $400 a month or $500 a month into a life insurance policy. And I did another video on my channel about investing, talking about, let's play this game of pretend where you are not Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett is going to do things on a level that the vast majority of us could never even imagine. The same with some of these families. Now, I have talked to, and I openly share this many times, when I'm in a conversation with people. Some of the smartest people that I know in financial services work in advanced insurance strategies. They have brains that are well beyond mine. And I will completely say that there are some very, very interesting things that can be done, but those specific cases are not for everybody. Most of them wouldn't even apply for me. Like I wouldn't do them because they're at a level financially that I'm not at yet, right? So let's part with this idea that the wealthy are hiding some type of secret, because I can promise you, if someone's on their phone shooting videos in their living room, shooting videos in their car on TikTok, it's not a secret. They're trying to sell something, right? Wealthy people, think of the wealthiest person that you know. That person likely has CPAs, attorneys, financial professionals, financial advisors, people that they go to for advice. So even if they get an idea that they think is great, they are going to have a team of professionals that they have hired to help them. They're not going to just do business with their buddy or their neighbor immediately that they hear something that's good. They're going to put that idea or that concept through the proper channels, through the proper processes before they make a decision. And that's all I would encourage any of you to do as well as an advisor, is if you hear something that's neat, be informed, go do the proper due diligence. And then if it makes sense for you, then God bless, move forward. False credibility. Okay, I'm gonna do this. False credibility, and this is one of the things that really bothers me, and I just have to get over it. But it's just how I'm wired personally. So in our business, there are so many things that can be done to manipulate and create the sense of expertise and credibility for consumers, right? You can pay for people to ghostwrite books for you. You can pay to be on television. You can pay to have articles published. And I bring this up specifically because in one of the videos, again, I am not stitching videos, but in one of these videos, I saw one of these individuals point to an article that was written on a major publication, a major financial publication. This article, he was using this article as some sort of third-party credibility to say, hey, look, here's this article on this well-known publication, and because this article says it, this is lending credibility to what I am telling you. This is one of the oldest sales tactics in the book. We pay a third-party publication that has credibility, and to be fair, these publications openly welcome this opportunity because they are in business of getting dollars. They want revenue. If you're in media, you want revenue from advertisements. You want people paying to be on TV, people paying to publish articles in your publications. So they will pay to be on there, and then they'll use this article or this TV spot as their credibility. This person was pointing to this article. So one of the things I would teach you to do, anytime somebody puts an article in front of you or says, hey, look at this article, look at this interview, this is lending credibility to what I'm saying. Find out who the person is and understand that point of view. So I go to this article that was posted on this major publication, and I look at immediately who the author is. Right. So the article was talking about, is the IUL the new 401k? Is the IUL the new 401k? Okay. I researched this person who wrote this article. This person is considered a Forbes council member. Right. So like, okay, who's this person? This person owns an insurance agency. This author is in business to sell as much insurance as possible through his agency. Respect. That's fine. I have no problem with that. He's in that business. But that's like going to the barber and asking them, hey, do you think I need a haircut today? What do you think the barber is going to tell you? Yeah, absolutely. Or, you know what? Your style is a little different than what's hip now. That's silliness to me. Pointing to somebody who's in the business of selling insurance, of course, they're going to talk their book, right? Then I look at this publication. I said, okay, they're this super secret circle for this publication. So I pull it up, It's an application. You know how you apply? You can apply to be a selected member, and the only requirement is A, that they choose you, and B, that you do a certain amount of revenue. So, but it's this smokescreen that lends the credibility of a major publication that most people know and have heard of to an individual that's simply trying to sell a product. Again, certified financial planners, like, part of our job is to do this kind of due diligence, to understand like what you're actually being told and if there's credibility to it, right? Not just take someone's word for it. But this is done all throughout our business, all throughout financial services, where people pay to be on podcasts, they pay to have books written, they pay to be interviewed on TV, they pay to have books published, and then pretend as though they are this authority. And the truth is, it's marketing. Again, respect to those people who do it that way. That's fine, but it's marketing. It's public relations. And I have no problem with it, except that it often lets people believe that folks are a higher authority on certain topics than maybe they really are. All right. Lastly, we'll dive into this actual IUL. Now, when I said I want to do this video, I had a lot of folks that were asking about, here's what I should talk about, here's what I should not talk about. And a lot of the financial minds, like, we want to get into the weeds and talk about the mechanics of the IUL policy itself and the math and how that works. But consumers generally are not thinking about it in those terms. And these products are not being marketed in those terms. So I'm going to actually try to give you a very consumer-friendly response to a lot of the things that I'm hearing about index universal life products. So the number one thing that people are saying is, hey, you can have growth with the market that is market-like returns, but you have no downside, or you're 0% floor. Okay, that's the number one thing, 0% floor. And it's a half truth. It's a half truth, right? Because when you put money into an index universal life policy, there are some costs. You have to pay for a life insurance cost, right? You have to do that because it is life insurance. The policy itself will most likely have some front end loads to it because the insurance company is going to want to make some money as well. So there can be front end loads or charges built into those initial or early premiums that you're paying into the policy. So when you place dollars into the contract, you have to pay for the life insurance premium portion because it is a life insurance contract. There can be front end loads that are also deducted from those premium dollars. Then what's left, that amount net of those initial expenses, that is the amount that gets linked to an indexing strategy. Now, if you are in an indexing strategy, you have to understand how that strategy actually works. Does it have caps? Does it have a participation rate? Does it have caps and a participation rate? Does it have a spread? There are multiple different ways that these things can be designed, and you need to understand exactly how that is credited. So the one that gets used the most is the S&P, because everyone kind of understands what the S&P is like. The S&P is a major market index, and when you put money into an IUL, it will say, hey, here's the S&P 500 capped strategy. That strategy could be an annual strategy where it's based on an annual return period. It could be a month to month. You have to understand what you're buying. But let's use the annual. So that strategy is not as though you're investing in the S&P. It is a price strategy. So you're not going to see the same type of return as somebody who is indexing to the S&P, because the S&P index funds will pay dividends and have dividends credited to the fund, where you're inside the policy, you are not going to get those types of dividends. So that's the first thing that's different. Second thing is, and this is a big one, and I've yet to see anybody talk about this. When you have a policy, you have an anniversary date or a crediting date on the policy. So while we may look at and often discuss the S&P 500 year over year returns, calendar year, that index is quite volatile, as we are all learning and experiencing in real time right now. Where your crediting date lies can significantly impact your return experience in that policy, because we've seen contracts that the index was very positive, and then you have an event like COVID hit. You have an intra-year correction of a 10 to 12% decline. And if you follow markets over the last couple years, these 10 to 12% slides are pretty normal, and they happen very fast. We're talking 1 to 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, but very quickly. Well, just imagine if you were set to receive a maximum credit in your IUL policy, and we have market volatility that drops the market within 2 weeks. Guess what? You missed your crediting window. You don't get the return that you thought you had. And then as the market recovers, well, you have to wait an entirely new year to have an opportunity to get those credits. So understand, like, the mechanics of how these policies work is very specific. The second or the third thing, I don't even know what number I'm on right now, but the next piece I want to make sure that people understand is, and this is probably the biggest one, these are insurance contracts. The insurance company can change the terms. I'll say that again. These are insurance contracts. The insurance company can change the terms. So while you may start out with this policy that says, hey, the fees are low, we're giving you a linked strategy to the S&P 500. The cap is currently 10%. That cap may not stay at 10%. It may fall to whatever the contractual minimum rate is. So you need to, first of all, anytime that someone is talking to you about an IUL strategy or one of these types of policies, one of the first things you should ask them is to give you an illustration, to actually run a policy illustration so you can see the numbers. Now, on that illustration, there will be a guaranteed values page. Look at the guaranteed values page, because that is your worst case scenario. That's going to show you, hey, the maximum fees that they could potentially charge, fees and charges that they could charge, and it's going to show you basically no crediting to that policy. That is your worst case scenario, but that is what they're also contractually, guaranteeing as well. So when we start out with an illustration, there is, hey, here's what the policy might do, and then your guarantees are, here's what the contracts will do. This is the guaranteed worst case scenario, right? So like someone who invests in the market, most people want to know, hey, how's my money going to perform? And we generally understand that the market bears a lot of risk. When someone comes in and says, hey, there's 0% floor, that's not being very forthcoming, because right now the 0% floor is, yes, you may not lose money based on market volatility, but you're still going to pay your fees and charges. You're still going to pay the loads that the insurance company is charging. And oh, by the way, if you want to get your money out, there's typically a surrender penalty. So if you look at this illustration that I'm telling you, look in your illustration, go over there, watch your premiums going in, and then look for the surrender value. The surrender value tells you if you decided to walk away, because again, this is a contract. If you walk away from the contract, that's how much of your money you get to take with you. So it doesn't really matter what the cash value balance is if you're thinking about, hey, I'll put money in this, I'll protect it from market risk, I'll get some return, but if I want to get out, I'll just take my money and run. Not so fast. You better see what that illustration says, because most of these policies have significant surrender charges that last for 10 plus years. Now, I realize that a lot of folks that are potentially marketing these policies right now and talking about them, they're using them as a retirement vehicle, as a retirement alternative. And so I'll give you some anecdata from my own personal experience, right? I told you I have an insurance license. I have actually written some IUL contracts over my career. It's not a huge part of my business, but sometimes there are cases where it does make sense for a client. I have yet to see over a 10-year period an insurance company not change the original terms that were based on the original illustration. I haven't seen it. Now, this doesn't mean that they always get horrible, but I have seen insurance companies that started out with cap rates that were at 12, 13. I've seen some as high as 13.5% that came all the way down to 8. So think about that. If you are buying this policy thinking, oh, I'm going to have no downside, 10% upside because that's what my cap is on the S&P. Well, first of all, remember, you're not investing in the S&P index, so there's no dividends. Number two is if you're putting in a lump sum and you're making an annual premium payment, whatever that date is, that's what matters. Where you are on the calendar year when your anniversary for your crediting lands, where you are, that's what you get. So the S&P might end up being up 25% in 1 year, but if it was only up 4 when your crediting strategy locked in, that's what you get. You don't get the 25, you get what you have on your crediting date. So, let's keep it like 100 when we talk about these policies. They aren't designed to beat the stock market, because if they were designed to beat the stock market, and if they had a track record of beating the stock market, what do you think the majority of CFPs and fiduciary advisors would be telling their clients? We would all be obligated to tell our clients, listen, there's a strategy out here that exists that provides you no downside, upside that can compete with and possibly even beat the market, and it's all contractually guaranteed. We would be obligated. We would be obligated to tell our clients that was going on if we knew that was true, right? But that's not the truth. The truth is that this is an interesting strategy that applies in some cases, but for the vast majority of people, you're better off looking at leveraging term insurance to actually cover your life insurance need, and then investing in the market and letting the market work for you. Now, here's where they're going to come at you with the market stuff. They're going to say, oh man, if you put money in the market and you invest and you grow your account, then you're going to have this 4% rule. The 4% rule. I keep hearing that over and over and over again. The 4% rule. First of all, I'm going to quote my friend Jamie Hopkins. The 4% rule is not a rule. It was a finding. This was research that was done, and now it's actually been challenged by many different people, but it was research that was done years ago. And the goal of the actual research was to say, hey, if you put your money into this portfolio with these different types of allocations, what's the maximum amount that you could withdraw and hope for those assets to last for a 30-year period? Basically to mimic like, hey, what's the rate that we could pull out of this portfolio over rolling periods that we will test and not have the money and not have the account deplete to zero? And so they come up with this number, this 4% number. But it's not a rule. When you retire, depending on what your financial situation looks like, depending on what your income sources look like, depending on what your assets look like, depending on what your debt looks like, depending on what your tax strategies or your tax brackets look like, all of those factors go into how you can and probably should start withdrawing from your different assets. So this idea that, oh, you can only take out 4% per year. I've heard people saying this. You can have your 401k or your IRA and you can only take out 4% per year. That is nonsense. You could take out 7%. You could take out 10%. What we're trying to say is like there's going to be a certain limit to withdrawals if your goal is to have those assets last for the rest of your life. And there are multiple different ways that you could set up retirement income strategies. Now, I think that for some households, using strategies like cash value insurance, annuities, borrowing from an IUL, these are conversations worth having. They're worth having. Do they fit for most people? I don't think so. And that's where working with a planner is significantly different than working with an insurance agent, right? An insurance agent is held to a much lower standard of care than a financial planner. And so the analogy that I would use is this: since we're so into talking about how people are paid and this person's not looking out for you because, if you don't invest with them, they can't be paid. So I'll use this analogy. If you were going to a doctor and the doctor you sat down with told you, hey, here's your diagnosis, and I want you to take drug A, and you knew from talking to this doctor, they told you, hey, if you take drug A, you're going to feel better. Everything's going to be okay, right? But what you didn't know was that doctor was being paid a massive amount of money by the pharmaceutical company that produced drug A to give you that drug A. Would you feel very confident in that doctor's prescription? Or would you rather go to a doctor and a doctor sit down with you, give you your diagnosis, and say, listen, here's what I see. And there's a couple different ways we can attack this, right? One, we can clean up your diet, your lifestyle, and we can put you on an exercise program, and we can monitor things. Number two is we can give you drug A, and it may help relieve your symptoms, and it may or may not give you a cure. Or there's drug B, there's drug C, and there's drug D. And we can find the right combination of treatment protocols so that you can go live your best life. Which doctor would you feel more confident talking to? The one who's only going to give you a pill, or the one who's actually going to give you some options on treatment? So this idea that CFPs, certified financial planners, are against something is silly. What we are against is the misleading, disingenuous sales tactics that are being deployed by people that, quite frankly, don't have a very good track record of staying in business. And then clients come to us saying, hey, I own this thing. Can you tell me what it is? This week, I met with someone who has an IUL, bought an indexed universal life insurance policy, doesn't understand what they actually own, doesn't understand the crediting methodology in the policy. The insurance company had already changed some of the crediting strategies, and the insurance agent that sold the policy is actually no longer in business. So this is the real world. This is the world that we play in every single day. So I don't want to hear any more people talking about CFPs like we don't care about clients and we're just upset. Okay? So that's it. That's the end of my rant. For those of you who stayed with me, I appreciate you. Sign up for my channel, The Wealth Technique. I'm gonna edit this video. We'll chop it up and we'll make it available to you online. Talk to you soon.